Hi, I'm reading out my garden, which is lovely. However, I'm a bit of a wuss when it comes to flying things. So this is take 3 of me attempting it. I've had 2 great big wasps after me. So we'll see. Anyway, we're up to chapter 11. Chapter 10 has seen us, so the house is flying through different realms, remember? It's got a bad case of the hiccups. We found a book that they think could resolve the hiccups, and then Flabbergast has got the idea of like landing somewhere to try and resolve the hiccups, but they know that this place is not very friendly. It's got the reputation of not being a very friendly place. However, they land anyway, and the house is clearly not happy because we left it in chapter 10 where they get shoved out by the house and the house has slammed the door. So we need to find out if this realm or this world or this planet they've landed on is as unfriendly as the reputation it has. Chapter 11. Did the house just throw us out? Said 9 indignantly, extracting herself from underneath Flabbergast's elbow. They all staggered to their feet. And there has got to be a better way to land that thing. Oh, nonsense, madam, said the wizard, staggering to his slippered feet. It was perfectly fine. He wobbled and then face-planted onto the floor. Ah, never mind that, said Spoon grimly. Look! They were in the greyest, bleakest place that 9 had ever seen before, including the dark, repulsive pickpocket den she'd spent most of her life in. At least there had been splashes of colour from their stolen prizes. Here, the sandy soil they stood on was soft, pale grey, like faded ash. The swath of the forest nearby was slate grey. The sky was dark grey, as if all the colours in the world had just been sucked away. But it was what 9 heard that sent a shiver down her spine, a strange, faint wheezing on the breeze. Ah, you fool of a wizard, growled Spoon. First you bring us to this land of doom, then you get us trapped outside in it. As long as we stay in the house, madam, we will be perfectly safe, quoted 9. Well, flustered Flabbergast, the house is a tad unpredictable. That's one of its lovely charms. 9, Flabbergast, Eric and Spoon all shifted closer together, staring at the bleak dark wood. I'm sure the house truly wishes us no harm and it will let us in straight away, said Flabbergast, inching backwards and reaching for the front door handle. It's just a little perplexed. He gritted his teeth, gazing up at his towering front door. Poor dear thing. He turned the handle. It was locked. Flabbergast rattled the door handle helplessly. Ah! Wretched, intolerable building! Whoomp! 9 then watched in absolute amazement as the house lifted off the ground temporarily as it hiccuped, and then crashed back down again. A wave of barely visible magic rolled out from under the house, and the house knocking Flabbergast back onto his bottom. He shook his fist at the house. First I'm locked inside my house for 3 years, and now I'm locked out. At least it's not world jumping now. Now it's landed, said 9. There must be some way to get back inside. Madam, clearly you have never tried to get inside a magical house which doesn't want you there. It can be intolerably stubborn. Sounds familiar, said 9, glaring at Flabbergast. Whoop! They all wobbled at the wave of magic. A roof tile fell off and smashed at their feet. 9 heard a tiny voice whispering inside her satchel, and then suddenly, terrifying high-pitched screeches echoed in the grey trees, followed by the same strange wheezing sound. 9 balled her hands into fists, ready. Out of the forest stepped a pack of about 20 strange rainbow-coloured creatures, a little shorter than 9 herself. They looked like they could walk upright, but instead they scrambled on their 4 long, ungangly legs. Their heads were round, but 9 shuddered. Their faces were mostly taken up with what looked like a huge, round, gaping mouth. What are those? Said 9, a jolt of panic rushing through her body. Ah, trouble, said Spoon solemnly, unsheathing his sword and turning towards the creatures. pack began stomping on the ground. As one, 9, Flabbergast, Eric and Spoon all walked backwards until their backs bumped the front door of the house. If you want to make your fingertips all sparkly and shoot some magic out, now would be a really good time, said 9, not taking her eyes off the rainbow creatures. Yes, said Flabbergast. He cleared his throat and he shuffled on the spot. He held his fingers in front of him and silver sparks did dance on the top of his fingertips. Do something. I'm trying, madam. He thrust his fingers out, but nothing happened. Turnip, turnip, pleaded Eric, pointing to the creatures. The silver sparkle at Flabbergast's fingertips fizzled and then died. Is that it? Said 9, whirling round to Flabbergast. It's been without my magic for 3 years. I'm just a little rusty. A bit rusty? Ah, I knew it, roared Spoon. You're the worst wizard in the world. The rainbow creatures edged forward, stomping as they came, and Flabbergast reached behind him, shook the handle and pounded on the door. Let us in! Let us in! Whoop. They were all jolted forwards a few steps by the invisible force of the hiccups, then quickly retreated to the walls of the house. And then the wheezing started. The unnerving, high-pitched sound was coming from those creatures, wide open, toothless mouths, as if they were sucking in air, but it wasn't air they were taking. 9 gasped and pointed at Spoon's kilt. Your pink ribbons, they're sucking the pink away. They watched in horror as the colour seemed to be pulled away from one of the ribbons towards the creatures, leaving grey in its place instead. The little band of pink slapped onto it, or was it into it? One of the creatures, which now bore a stripe of pink on his mismatched rainbow body. You foul fiends! Sorry, that was Spoon. Scottish accent. You foul fiends! I'll have my flaming heads! I'll have your flaming heads! Spoon lunged forwards, waving his sword furiously. But 9 grabbed him and held him back, his arms and legs swishing wildly in mid-air. Ah! Cried Flabbergast. 9 then turned and saw the indigo being stretched and pulled away from his pyjamas. We're about to have the colour sucked out of us. I fear it's worse than that, madam. Flabbergast gulped and pointed at the creatures. Look! 9 looked and wished immediately that she hadn't. She dropped Spoon in horror as she saw, one by one, circular rows of jagged teeth pop up inside the creatures' huge mouths. They stomped and wheezed and edged even closer. 9 saw the brown of her satchel being sucked towards the creatures. Get your mouths off me, she yelled, pulling her satchel backwards. Inside, the little music box tinkled. Whoomp! The house's burst of magic whooped, then a step closer to danger. The creatures approached the house with interest. The inhaling noise came again, and the blue began lifting away from the door of the house. There, see? Flabbergast yelled at the house, wildly waving his arms. They're coming to get you now. Now you can be frightened. Now you can stop the infernal hiccups. There was a moment of silence. Whoop! Ah! Wailed Flabbergast, clutching handfuls of curly hair which poked from beneath his hat. How can this place not scare the hiccups out of the flaming house? It's scaring the living daylights out of me, said 9. We need to get inside, now. And how do you propose we do that, madam? Back door, said 9. Locked. Smash a window. Utterly shatterproof. I replaced them after the incident with the green-horned minotaurs. Spoon unsheathed his sword. I wish I could replace you. I'll tell you, if I had an ounce of magic in my body, I'd turn you into a turnip. No turnip, no turnip, Eric cried. No one is turning anyone into a vegetable, said 9. Just let me think. We need a plan. I have a plan, bellowed Spoon. He raised his sword and charged at the surprised rainbow creatures. Eric whimpered as Spoon leapt and clambered all over the creatures' backs while they battered at him as if he were an annoying kilt-wearing fly. I'll teach you to steal the pink from our kilt, you miserable beasts. Nine hesitated, torn between wanting to help Spoon and finding a way inside the house at the same time. Ah! Wailed Spoon as he lay on his back, being passed along from one creature to the next. The wheezing, inhaling sound came again, and the pink from another one of his ribbons on his kilt disappeared. So did the silver from his sword, leaving it dull and grey. Ah, my sword! You'll pay for that, roared Spoon, as one of the rainbow creatures tossed him up in the air. Nine ran around the left-hand side of the house. A shot of hope lit up inside her. There's a little window open. The one we could never close, yelled back Flabbergast. I could fit through. Oh, then make haste, madam, came Flabbergast's voice. Ah, leave my hand alone. Heart thumping, Nine climbed up into a windowsill. Nine climbed up onto a windowsill, but the open window was still another floor up. Then she peered closely at the wall. Certain bricks jutted out a little further than the others, footholds, handholds, all the way up to the open window, like someone had already thought of doing this. Nine took a deep breath and carefully began to scale the wall, reaching up, grabbing a brick, moving her legs up in the footholds until, finally, she reached the window. She pushed it further open. She tumbled inside, and she landed on the soft bed. From the moment she entered the room, Nine felt a strange sense of peace, a sense, for the first time, that maybe she was right where she should be. Every wall was painted a bold turquoise, and each had a narrow bookcase filled with books. Empty picture frames hung on the walls, and there was a golden clock on the shelf, which had stopped. Time was standing still. Something like a blue ball of wool on legs scurried away under the bed. There was a brown fabric-bound book lying on the pillow. It looked really familiar. Nine reached over. She lifted the book and she read the golden letters that were written on the spine. The Mystery of Woolven Moor. She opened the book and saw the name written inside. Eliza. Nine frowned. There were secrets here. Nine could feel them stirring, whispering into her head in a voice that didn't exist. She yearned to explore, to embrace it all, every inch of this room. And even more strange was the smell of the room. It was oh so familiar, like something she'd smelled before, and she couldn't quite put a finger on it. Gah! Came Spoon's voice from outside. His voice snapped Nine from her thoughts. She pushed away the strange lure of the room and ran to the bedroom door. She flung it open, hurtled down a rickety flight of stairs and headed to the plum-carpeted staircase. She half ran, half fell down the stairs and threw herself at the front door, yanking it open with trembling fingers. "Lady, save!" cried Eric, lolloping towards the door. Flabbergast leapt for the door at the same time, and for one ridiculous moment he and Eric were wedged in the door frame together, unable to move. Nine reached forwards and heaved on Eric's thick arms, pulling them both free. "Come on, Dr. Spoon," cried Flabbergast, turning to Spoon, who sat astride one of the creatures, sword held aloft. "Cease fouling around!" As Spoon leapt off the creature and rolled across the grey ground, Nine saw all the ribbons on his precious kilt had now been unpinked. He darted inside the house and Nine slammed the front door. Punch, slam, thump. The door was pummeled by the furious creatures, wheezing and screeching outside. "Time to go," she said. "Indeed, madam," said Flabbergast, breathed breathlessly, as Nine pulled the toad's tongue on the coat of arms. Zabam! There was a sickening lurch, followed by the strange, yet now very familiar feeling that her brain was being sucked out of the top of her skull. She tried to gasp air that didn't exist. Everything hurtled in a direction she didn't understand, but was quite possibly up. Then there was a strange lightness as the house jolted back into the world between worlds. Phew! So they've left the dark, grey, bleak world that had those scary creatures that sucks all the colour from you, and we're up to chapter 12. Now, while I was reading, I thought, do you think that was a calculated move on Flabbergast's part? Was he trying to really scare the hiccups out of the house then, and that's why he intended on land in there? Or was there another purpose to land there? But just to scare the hiccups? I guess so. When you have hiccups, if someone scares you, does it work? I normally hold my breath. Anyway, that takes us to chapter 12. I wasn't attacked by any flying things, so I might read the next chapter out here as well.